The access log shows someone badged into the main pump room at 2:47 a.m. I'm the only one here tonight. I work overnight maintenance at a regional water treatment facility, one of the mid-sized plants that serves about 80,000 people in the county, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been on the overnight shift for 4 years, 11 to 7 solo. The day shift and swing shift run full crews, but overnight it's one maintenance tech and one control room operator in separate buildings. Kevin is usually my operator, but Kevin called in sick Tuesday, and his replacement is someone I've met twice. She's in the control building on the east side of the campus. I'm in the main plant, alone, doing my rounds. The facility is a series of connected buildings, the intake screens and chemical feed at the west end, the treatment trains in the center block, and the pump room at the far east. 5 high-service pumps that push treated water into the distribution system for the whole county. The pump room is the loudest part of the plant. You feel the vibration in your chest when you walk in. I do a round every 90 minutes, and I log every entry in both the physical binder and the badge reader. That's how I know what time I was where. That's how I know the 2:47 entry isn't mine. I was in the chemical feed room at 2:47. The badge log there confirms it, 2:46. I initialed the walk-through sheet while I was standing at the chlorine feed panel, time-stamped 2:47. I did not enter the pump room until 3:15. When I looked at the pump room access log, it showed 2 entries, mine at 3:15, and one before it at 2:47, badge number 0041. I had to look it up in the employee directory system. Badge 0041 belongs to a man named Roy Hendricks. Roy retired in 2022. His access credentials should have been deactivated the week he turned in his keys. You know how it feels when something doesn't add up on paper, but your brain tries to build an explanation anyway. Typo in the log. Legacy record left active in the system. Some kind of database sync error. You run through the reasonable options before you let yourself sit with the one that doesn't have a reasonable option. I walked to the pump room. All 5 units were running, everything in normal parameters, green across the panel. I walked the full floor, checked the corners, checked behind the equipment bays. Nothing out of place. But when I got to the far wall near the west pump, my red-handled pipe wrench was sitting on the concrete floor in the aisle. I leave it in the upper tray of my tool cart. It is always in the upper tray. It was on the floor, handle pointing toward the door, placed there deliberately. I left it where it was and went to the security monitor in the control alcove. The pump room has 2 cameras, one at the door, one mounted high on the south wall with a full floor view. I pulled the 2:47 timestamp. The camera shows the pump room empty at 2:47. No one at the door, no one on the floor, the pumps running, the aisle clear, everything exactly as it should be. Then I pulled my own entry, 3:15. The camera shows me walking in, checking each pump panel, walking to the far wall, and then it shows me standing in the northwest corner for 6 uninterrupted minutes. Standing still, facing the wall. I have no memory of doing that. I have no memory of stopping at all. I check my own binder. My log shows continuous movement, panel to panel, standard round. There is no 6-minute gap I can account for. I'm watching the 3:15 clip on the monitor right now. On the screen, I'm still standing in that corner. I've been watching for 4 minutes, and I haven't moved. The timestamp in the corner of the frame is still counting up. My wrench is back in the upper tray of my cart. I don't know when that happened. That was the first story. This next one was sent to me by a reader who solo camps every summer in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in northern Wisconsin. He's done it for 9 years. He says this was his last trip. My campfire had been out for hours. The second ring of ash in the clearing wasn't mine. I've been doing solo camping trips since college. 5 days, remote, no cell service, as far from a trailhead as I can reasonably get with a full pack. Northern Wisconsin, the same general region every August, different site each year. I know what to pack, how to read weather, how to store food properly in bear country. I am not the kind of person who has a bad night in the woods and comes home telling ghost stories. I say that because I want you to understand what it means that I'm telling this one. This was my 9th trip. I drove up on a Friday, parked at a pull-out off Forest Road 144, and hiked in about 4 miles before the lights started going flat. Found a clear site near a dry creek bed, set up the tent, made a fire, ate, and was asleep by 10. First night was ordinary. Coyotes in the distance, some wind. I slept well. Saturday morning I went down to the creek to filter water. When I came back to camp, the fire ring had been disturbed. I build my fires the same way every time. A tight stack of birch and poplar, a ring of flat stones around the perimeter. When I left for the creek, the fire was cold ash and the ring was intact. When I came back, 2 of the stones had been moved and the ash had been raked through in a way I hadn't left it. Someone had kicked through the pit with a boot heel. I assumed a deer had bumped the ring, or a raccoon had gone through looking for food scraps. I reset the stones and moved on. Saturday night I propped my phone against a birch tree at the edge of camp, opened the voice recorder app, and set it to capture all night. Not because I was frightened, because I am methodical, and something hadn't added up, and I wanted to resolve it. You know how easy it is to talk yourself out of a feeling in daylight. You catalogue the logical explanations. You make your coffee. You do the next thing. It's only later, when you're in the bag and the forest has gone completely dark and quiet, that the explanations stop feeling like enough. Sunday morning the recording showed 11 hours captured. I played it at double speed while I made coffee. Wind, tent fabric shifting, my own breathing, occasionally audible during a lighter stretch of sleep. Nothing for the first 9.5 hours. At 4:18 a.m., close to the phone, very close, maybe 3 feet, a voice says my name. Not shouted, not whispered, said. The way you'd say it if you were reading it off a page. Flat, clear, deliberate. Then nothing for the rest of the tape. You know when something is real. There's no confusion, no self-negotiation, no talking yourself into or out of it. I knew. I didn't know who else knew where I was going. I had told my wife the general area and which trailhead. Always file your plan with someone, that's basic safety. But the general area covers roughly 800,000 acres of national forest. The trailhead is an unmarked pullout on a forest road with no signage, and I hadn't posted about the trip. No one who knew me knew exactly where I was. I had not told anyone my name. Whatever spoke it at 4:18 in the morning, from 3 feet outside my tent, did not learn it from me. I broke camp Sunday morning. 20 minutes, moving fast. I hiked out 4 miles in just under an hour on rough terrain, faster than I should have. I was focused on the trail and on my feet, and on not stopping. When I got to the car, I sat in the driver's seat without starting the engine. I played the 4:18 clip one more time to confirm I hadn't constructed it into something it wasn't. I hadn't. It was my name, said clearly, from 3 feet away. I never heard footsteps approach. I never heard them leave. That was the second story. The next one I've been sitting on for a year trying to figure out how to tell it. A woman in rural Indiana sent it to me. I'm still not sure what happened to her. My GPS said I arrived home 12 minutes ago. I'm still 40 miles out on the highway. She drives home from the regional office every other Friday. 2 hours on US 24 through flat farmland in central Indiana. A road with no landmarks. Just dark fields and grain elevators. And the occasional light from a farmhouse set a 1/4 mile back from the shoulder. She'd done the drive more than 60 times. It's never interesting. You put on a podcast and you go. It was mid-October, 10:45 at night. She'd stayed late for a team dinner after a quarterly review, tired in that flat, manageable way. 90 minutes into the drive, the GPS lost signal for a minute or two, normal in one stretch between Wabash and Peru. When it came back, the map showed her blue arrow at her home address, 112 Birchwood Lane, 32 miles north of where she actually was. She assumed it had cached to a recent destination incorrectly. She drove on. 11 minutes later, it refreshed and placed her correctly on US 24. She forgot about it. Then she noticed the car. It had been behind her for at least 20 minutes by then. She started tracking it consciously after it held position through 2 turns. A dark-colored sedan staying exactly 3 car lengths back, not gaining, not falling behind. When she slowed for a construction barrel, it slowed. When she came back up to 60, it was back to 60 within 3 seconds. You know the difference between someone who happens to be going your way and someone who is matching your pace. There's a quality to it, a deliberateness. She knew. She pulled into a BP station in Peru just after midnight. In her mirrors, the sedan slowed, past the station entrance, and stopped on the shoulder 40 yards past the exit ramp. Lights off. She called her husband. He picked up on the second ring and said he thought she was already home. He'd heard her come in. The side door off the garage, it drags on the threshold and makes a specific sound. He'd heard it. Heard footsteps through the kitchen. Heard someone go upstairs. He assumed she was tired, hadn't wanted to wake him. That was 40 minutes ago. She told him she was in Peru. She told him to check the house. He went upstairs. He called back from the hallway outside their bedroom. The door was open. The room was empty. The window on the east wall was open. They don't open that window. It sticks and they leave it. The screen had been removed and was leaning against the exterior wall of the house, on the porch roof below the sill. Someone had come up onto the porch roof and opened that window from outside. Someone had been in the dark in their bedroom for 40 minutes, in the bed, waiting for her to come home. He called 911. Officers came and cleared the house. Nothing in the closets, nothing in the other rooms. Whoever had been there was gone before they arrived. No one could explain the porch roof or what the plan had been. She sat in her car in that parking lot for a long time after the second call. She looked at the highway. The sedan was still on the shoulder, lights off. Then the lights came on. If you've ever been followed on a road you couldn't explain, or come home to something in your house that wasn't right, tell me about it in the comments. I read every one.